Hello, welcome to the Everyman Puppet Theater. My name is Laura Ann Ewald. I'm the puppeteer and founder of the Everyman Puppet Theater. And I'd like to welcome you today to another in our series of Let's Make a Puppet. Today we're going to be talking about making shadow puppets. Now if we refer back to the video we did on 5 types of puppets, you will see what I did with a wooden puppet stage. So here's how the shadow puppet stage works. You stretch something over the opening, and we can do this, as I said, in a cardboard box. Parchment paper works very well. It's translucent, and we put a light behind it. And each puppet is simply a cutout, and it is a very simple rod puppet. So for example, I have a little girl inside the house, and she comes out, and she's calling the dog. And here comes the dog, running across, up the porch. Whoa, no, don't jump on me, don't jump on me. Rod puppets are very simple. They can be cutouts. They can be all black. You might also use color, something that's a plastic that you can see through so you can get colors in them. The rod puppets are the oldest form of puppetry. They come from India or China. They're not sure who did it first. But they're very simple. But you can do all sorts of things. The background is also, all the scenery is also done in cutout. Plain simple cutout black, and you can make them articulated by just putting a pin through their shoulders, and you can have them move. As you can see, they are rod puppets because the puppets are on a stick, on a rod. In this case I used a pin that went through, if I can show it to you here, it went through her shoulders so we can also move her arms up and down. So that's how it works. And we can go on the porch, and the puppy can come. That's how it works. Rod puppets, which are also shadow puppets. Today I'd like to introduce to you a simple way of making a shadow puppet stage all for yourself. This time we're just going to use a cardboard box. Any cardboard box you happen to have. This was a shipping box, as you can see, just an old cardboard box. What we want to do with it, first of all, is to cut a hole in it so we have a stage. In this case, I use a straight edge and a very sharp knife, so I would recommend using your older brother or sister or your parents or guardians to have help with this part of it, because we're cutting into corrugated cardboard and it takes a very sharp knife, so you want to be very careful with it. But once you get it cut, and I did this last night, by the magic of television, we can just take that out and we have a square. And we don't need that. So we have our shadow stage, okay? Not quite. What do we need for a shadow stage? We need a screen, and we need some puppets, and we need some setting and scenery, and we need a light source. I want to talk a little bit today about the terms we have to use when we're talking about light and how light works in theater. What we need for our screen is a translucent piece of paper. Transparent means it's clear. It's like window glass. You can see right through it, right? We don't want that because you don't want to see everything backstage. What we want is something that is translucent, that is, that light shines through. As you can see, not too bad right now. So we want to use paper. This is a white drawing paper. You must, if you can get a pad of paper, it has to be thin enough that you can see things through it when light shines behind it. And I'll put this up to here. You can see it is translucent. Translucent coming from the word lux, which is the Latin word for light, and trans meaning passing through. So you have light that passes through this thing. It's translucent. And some things are more translucent than others, but you want something that will show pretty clear images through your paper. You cut it to size for your box. So we can take our box and turn it up on end, and we can lay our sheet of paper on top. And the easiest way to connect it is simply to tape it down. And there's nothing fancy about this. You can use masking tape. You can use, this is Scotch tape because it's what I have. You want to make sure it's stretched out taut. You don't want any wrinkles in it. So you want to do the corners first. And then it doesn't hurt to also tape along the sides if you think you're having some light coming through. Now I went ahead and also last night decided to make a frame for it. So it makes it more like a television if you have a frame around it. You don't have to do this part, but it's kind of fun. And I'm just going to use double-faced tape to stick this on very, very quickly here. Just in the corners. And you can use regular tape, just fold it back on itself so it's two-sided. In this case, I just happen to have some of this around, so I'll use this kind. And again, if you think it's too loose, you can put it along the sides, edges too. I'm just going to do it in the corners. So now we have our puppet stage. As you can see, when I put light through it, we actually can do something with shadows inside. Hello. So here is our basic puppet stage. As you can see in the back, it's simply an open box with a screen on it. Now for today, I want to show you real quickly. As I mentioned the last time, puppets actually, shadow puppets came from either India or China, we're not sure where, but they do some really intricate stuff. Here is a puppet. This is a Chinese puppet. As you can see, it was done very intricately. They used animal skins, they used bone, and all sorts of things. I'm not holding it up very well. This is a basic rod puppet. You can see the rods hanging off of the arms and the body, but it was done in very detailed, really interesting stuff. We are not going to do that today. We're going to do something very simple. We're going to tell a story. And I decided, because I don't know why I decided on this one, but I thought of it last night as I was going to bed. We're going to do Incy Wincy Spider. Now when you start doing a puppet show and you have a story you want to use, you have to figure out what you need in terms of setting, any props, and what your characters are going to be. Now in this case, our Incy Wincy Spider, we have Incy Wincy Spider went up the water spout. So we already know we need a spider and we need a spout, water spout. Down came the rain, so we need something that makes rain, like a cloud. Out came the sun, we need a sun. Okay, so I have to think about this, how it's going to work. So if we do the Incy Wincy Spider, here's a nice story. Incy Wincy Spider went up the water spout, down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the Incy Wincy Spider went up the spout again. So, very simple story, but we need 4 items for the story. We need the spider, we need a water spout, we need rain or we need a cloud to make the rain, and we need the sun to come out. Now, what has to move in the story? This is where we start thinking about what's a puppet and what is a piece of the setting. The spider's going up the water spout. The water spout is always there. It's there when he gets there. He goes up the spout, he comes down the spout, there's always a spout there. So that's a piece of the setting that we have to do. The sunshine is always there, if you think about it. The sun is always there. Sometimes there are clouds in front of the sun. So now the sun and the water spout are always there. The spider is a puppet, and the cloud that brings the rain is a puppet. So we're going to be making 2 puppets and some scenery. So I need a sunshine and a water spout. So I'm going to use a file folder. 10 to 1, some grown-up in your life has old file folders they're throwing out, and sometimes they're colored and you can use them. And what's good about file folders is that even if they're colored, they're sometimes a little bit translucent. As you can see, there's some light coming through this one. So I'm going to make the water spout out of this. Now, I could be very intricate and draw it, and I could get a straight edge and a knife and all that, or I can just pick up a pair of scissors and cut it out, which is what I did for this one. You can see the outline. And I came up with a water spout. Okay, it's just a piece of flimsy paper. I cut out the inside. Why did I cut out the inside of the spout? Because if you don't take the inside out, you don't see the spider going up it. So you have to do outlines. It's like a cartoon. What we're doing is a cartoon. And you have to have just the walls of the water spout, otherwise you'll lose the spider when it goes up. Now for the sun is also in place. I just took a yellow piece of paper, and the yellow really glows in the light. If I can get that over here, you can see the, oops, it's hard to see it. It's that light, isn't it? But as you can see, the light comes through it very well. So we'll just do that. Now for this, all I did, let's lose it. All I did was I put a jar on it. I just put a jar on it. I drew around it to get a round circle, and then I cut it out with some of these funky scissors that make a pattern, and I came up with kind of a rough sun. Okay? So here's my sun. I've got to put it in the sky. Now I'm going to use, you can use tape, you can use all sorts of stuff. It's going to be on the inside of the stage. So I'm going to turn this over. And I'm going to put my water spout inside. That's the best way to do that. For sake of time, I'm going to use my double-faced tape. I'll bet I'm going to run out of double-faced tape too. I just ran out of double-faced tape. It'll be enough. You can probably do. So there's the sun, and there's the water spout. So now if I put this up, and I put a light behind it, you see we have a water spout and we have a sun. And the more light you use, the more yellow the sun is. So now we have a water spot and we have a sun. Now we need a spider and we need a cloud. The cloud's the easiest to do. I highly recommend cereal boxes. Cereal boxes work great. You can cut them out. You have dark on one side, you have shiny on the other. I recommend, if you're going to glue on these, to glue on the side that's gray, because that is going to be most porous and it's going to allow you to put glue on it and it'll stick. For the shiny side, if you want to glue on that, you want to take a fingernail file. One of the women in your life is going to have a fingernail file, and you want to rub off the shiny part. You don't have to take it all the way down to the gray, but you want to rub off the shiny part so that glue will stick to it. Now I'm going to hold this up in the set to see what looks better. This is the gray side forward, and this is the other side forward, and it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and make the back of the puppet what will be easily stuck to. Okay? This is not working very well. So the easiest way to do this is figure out what rod you're going to use. Remember, these are rod puppets. They have shadow puppets, but they're rod puppets because they're controlled with rods. Because this box is so deep, I'm going to use skewers. These are those skewers I've told you about before, and they're very sharp on one end, but it's also very easy just to break off the end so nobody gets hurt on it. You take the point, you toss it away, and then you just have a skewer that's dull on one end and just a little fuzzy on the other. Now what I want to do is stick this to the cloud. And if I'm going to put the cloud in this way, I want to put the stick on this way. You think that's kind of difficult to do, but there's a really easy way to do it. What you want to use is a piece of cellophane tape. If I can show it, you can't really see that. Because why? It's transparent. You make a hinge out of this by putting it over the end of the stick, folding it back on itself, and leaving a piece out the end. And then squishing it all together. So what you have is plastic around the end of it. The best place to hold this. Plastic around the end of it, and a plastic hinge. Okay? And then you take another piece of tape and you put the other piece of tape, this is not showing very well, over the end of, I'm doing off screen now, the end of the hinge, and then you tape that onto your cloud. And so now your cloud is on a hinge, is on a rod, okay? It doesn't matter that there's cereal showing there, right? Because this is shine on the front, light on the front, and you're going to get cereal. But you put it on the back, and you're going to get a cloud. So here we are in the set, and we want to cover up the sun. Does a pretty good job of it. You can see a little bit of yellow through, but it's close enough. So that's one puppet. The second puppet is, of course, the spider. This is the main character of the show, so we have to have a spider. Now, whenever I make a puppet of an animal, I always go online and I look for pictures of the animal. And I print one off so I can see what the animal looks like. We are not doing a puppet of this animal. We are not doing a real spider-looking puppet. We are doing what we call a caricature of that animal. For example, we have a pig puppet that I made. This pig puppet is not a real pig. He doesn't look anything like a real pig, but he has the characteristics of a pig. He has a square raised snout. He has cloven hooves. He has big triangle ears, and he's pink. So when the audience looks at this guy, they say pig. Never mind that he's just a paper plate cut out, but he looks like a pig. He's a caricature of a pig. And we're going to do the same thing with the spider, because we don't need a fuzzy spider. We just need something that the audience will look at that and say, oh, that's a spider. So here's my spider image. I went online and found a picture of a spider. He's kind of gross. I want a cute spider. I don't want that spider. How am I going to do him? I just got to look at the characteristics that say this is a spider. There's a big bulb in the back. There's a small body in the middle. All 8 legs come out of that body in the middle, and he's got these 2 eye bulbs on the front. So he's got his big body, his little body, his long legs, 8 legs, and his 2 eyeballs. Okay? So we just need something that looks like that. I'm going to use the same paper as I used for this screen. I could also use thinner paper. If I use white paper, I can use what I printed on. Now I'm going to draw this character. In this case, I'll use a big black marking pen. I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't see this. But all I'm going to do is make a big body, a little body, put 2 eyeballs on the front, and give him 8 legs. When I get done, I have a spider on a stick. Okay? I've got a big body, I've got a middle body, I've got 2 eyeballs in the front and 8 legs. Okay? In this case, I also have some other lines because I did it in pencil first. Now, I'm going to do the hinge on this the same way I did on the other thing, but this is a very flimsy piece of paper. So before I put the hinge on, I'm going to glue on a piece of that cardboard box. I'm just going to use glue stick for this, and you notice I have the gray against the paper. I use glue stick on the box, stuck it to the paper. You can't see it. Remember, it's going to be black against the screen, so I made sure it was smaller than the body of the spider. And then I made the hinge the same way I did the hinge on the cloud that I just showed you. Okay? A little harder to do because it's smaller, but nevertheless, it's the same technique I used for the cloud. So now we have a spider, we have a spout, we have a sunshine, and we have a cloud. Okay? Let's see if my arms are long enough. Now again, you don't have to worry that it's not straight, because when I put it against the screen, he'll straighten up. So the Everyman Puppet Theater presents the Incy Wincy Spider. The Incy Wincy Spider goes up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the incy wincy spider went up the spout again. The end. Spider is just on paper with that hinge on the back. Remember always to if you're going to use drawing paper like this, you have to reinforce the hinge in the back with cardboard. This stuff, remember, tape and glue all stick better to the gray side than the other side, and it doesn't matter if this looks like a bowl of cereal or a spoonful of cereal, because it's not going to show anyway. It's going to be behind the shed. So there's your puppets. We have a spider and we have a cloud, and inside the spider looks like this and the cloud looks like this. So I hope you enjoyed this session with shadow puppets. If you have a bigger box, it can work a little bit easier. If you have a big enough paper to cover it with, that is. If you can get a box like a refrigerator box or a washer and dryer box from an appliance store, then you could put your stage up here and you could stand inside it, and that would give you a lot of room to work with your puppets. This is a little tight sitting up on top of the table, but if you were in a big box, you could still put a smaller window in it, and then you could do your puppets that way. So have a ball, cut some paper out, look some shadows, look for that translucent paper, either color or white. Get your opaque paper or marking pens to be your puppets, and have a ball. We'll see you next time on the Everyman Puppet Theater.